Manora Amakom Hazeh Manora Amakom Hazeh Manora Hamakom Hazeh Ein Zakim Beit Elohim Zeh Sha'ar HaShamayim. How awesome is this place? It is none other than the home of the Almighty. And this is the gate to heaven. Page 61. We stir on our beds, begin collecting our consciousness, and recognize and realize we have a new day to live. And we give thanks to God for giving us another chance, another day, another drop of life, by giving us back our souls. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shehechezarta bi nishmati bechemla raba emunatecha Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechezarta bi nishmati bechemla raba emunatecha shechezarta bi nishmati bechemla Rabba 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 emunatecha. A new Modeh Ani by Bradley Burston. This is what I told myself this morning. Whatever you're doing, stop a second. Take a long breath. Deep. Take a breath and revel in it. Just to decide that you're alive. Take a breath to give thanks. Ask, who is like unto this unknowable Almighty, who invented life itself and breath, and who created our true shields and swords, the health professionals who are the mightiest, if the most compassionate of angels. Thank you, by whatever name, who created and sent us and sustains these heroes, these champions, who run marathons every single day to just do their jobs, which are to perform miracles. Most of all, take that long breath in honor of and in gratitude to the angels themselves, nurses, doctors, emergency medical technicians and ambulance crews, lab techs, orderlies, maintenance and cleaning staff, research scientists and pharmacologists and epidemiologists, social workers, teachers, first responders, chaplains, laborers, and workers. And for so many others, among them the parents, suddenly at home with their children running, without training, without help, without grandparents, running marathons of their own, all in an effort to save countless lives. Modeh Ani, only you could hear me, how grateful I am for your faithfulness. How grateful I am that now so many of these angels are receiving the vaccine that can protect them, that can give them the strength and the security to continue doing their miraculous work. How grateful I am that they have made it this far, and we are able to give them this gift to protect their souls and their bodies. Their souls, because when they throw themselves into working so hard to save the desperate, the anguished, those in pain and in danger of death, their own souls are strained to the breaking point. I'm so grateful that the vaccine is finally making its way first to them. May it make its way to all of us, so that we may all breathe deeply and gratefully. Modeh ani. Ma yafe hayom, Shabbat Shalom. 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 Shabbat Shalom. Yes, we still have to wash our hands and wear our masks and pray and hope and think about the lives that we can save just by doing those simple acts. Another day, another opportunity to dedicate our hands to do God's work, to make this world a place where we can live in peace and in mutual love. Al natilat yadayim. It's up to us to take hold of our hands and do the work. Ma'yakar chazdecha Elohim. Bnei Adam, tzil knafecha yichesayu. Yirviyun mideshen beitecha, v'nachal adanecha tashkein. Ki imcha mikor chayim be'orcha nir'e or. Mishol chazdecha liyodecha, v'tzidkatcha liyishrei lev. How precious is your loving kindness, God. We take shelter under your wings. We feast on the abundance found in your house. You give us drink from the river of your delight, for with you is the fountain of life. By your light do we see light. Grant your loving kindness to those who love you, and your righteousness to the upright in heart. Page 63. Find there the undertaking, the accepting upon oneself of the binding sacred call to love one another as we love ourselves. Hareini mekabel alai et mitzvat haborei l'reyacha kamocha, l'reyacha kamocha. Hareini mekabel alai et mitzvat haborei ve'yahavta l'reyacha kamocha, l'reyacha kamocha. On page 65, we have a long list of blessings to recite as we begin our day. We thank God for making us who we are. We open our eyes and we thank God for the gift of opening our eyes, of putting our feet firmly on the ground to be able to walk out into the world, to put on our clothes, to stand up straight. And then we say, Ozer Yisrael bigvura. You gird Israel with courage. We need courage. We need courage to be able to open our hearts, to do those things that we are commanded to do. Our Torah reading this week is about brothers who could not love each other as they loved themselves. But then, gradually, they're brought together by Joseph in an alien place, not on their home turf. And there they begin the difficult process of reconciliation. Will they be able to do it? The Torah doesn't tell us. But what they will need in order to do this is great courage. Great courage, Ozer Yisrael bigvura, to wrap oneself, to be girded with courage, the way we wrap ourselves in a talit, envelop ourselves in a sense of security, to be secure enough to open ourselves to risk and to vulnerability, in order to be able to love others, to give to others. It needs great courage. May God bless us with that courage. Page 93. Ranenu tzadikim badunai, aisharim navat tehillah. This is Psalm 33. Hodu l'Adonai b'chinor b'nevel asor zamru lo shir chadash heitivu nagein b'truah ki ashar dvar Adonai b'chol ma'asehu be'emunah ohev tzedakah u'mishpat chesed Adonai mala haaretz. Sing to God a new song and play as well as you can with aroused inspiration. A song for God. For the word of the Eternal holds true. All God's deeds endure. God is the one who loves righteousness and justice, and the earth is filled with divine love. For by the word of the Eternal, the heavens were made, and at God's command, all they contain. God gathers the waters of the sea as a mound and stores the deep in vaults. Let all the earth revere the Eternal, and all who inhabit the world stand in awe. The Eternal looks out from heaven, beholds all of us mortals. From God's dwelling, God surveys all of the inhabitants of the earth. Hayotzer yachad libam. And God works together to fashion our hearts with us, discerning all of our deeds. A king is not rescued by an army. The courage that God requires, that we require, is not to be able to be involved in military conflict. Nor is a warrior saved by sheer strength. Horses are a delusion of security. Their great power provides no escape. Rather, the Eternal watches over and takes care of those who have reverence for God, over those who hope for God's loving kindness to save them from death and to sustain their lives in famine, as Joseph and his brothers experienced. Nafshenu, nafshenu, chita ladonai, Ezreinu, maginenu, nafshenu, nafshenu, chita ladonai, Ezreinu, maginenu, ki vo yismach li yibeinu, ki v'shem kodsho vatachnu, ki vo yismach li yibeinu, ki v'shem kodsho vatachnu. Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ay la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 lillahi ay lillahi ay lillahi ay lillahi ay lillahi ay lillahi Allah illallah ay lillahi ay lillahi ay lillahi ay lillahi ay lillahi Yehi chazdecha Adonai aleinu kasher yichalnu lach Yehi chazdecha Adonai aleinu kasher yichalnu lach. May your love be bestowed upon us in the same measure as we have hoped for and waited for you. L'chayotam bera'av. Joseph gives life to the people of Egypt and to all of the surrounding territories during the time of famine. He girds himself with courage to be able to be magnanimous, to be able to welcome everyone to his place of plenty, people who are desperate, who are starving, who have nothing. Not just his own brothers, but everyone who comes knocking at the door. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, a great teacher from the middle of the 19th century, taught us that we sometimes think about the difference between the material world and the spiritual world. And he said they are so intertwined. We need to remember our material obligation, our spiritual obligation is to look after the material needs of others. Our spiritual need is to look after the material needs of others, to make sure that they can eat, to make sure that they can sleep under a dry roof. Shabbat is a time when we imagine that the world comes to rest in a place of safety and abundance, no matter what the rest of the week brings. And we celebrate that image through so many songs at our table on Shabbat. One of them is found on page 320 in our Siddur. Shabbat, the Queen, your beloved one, your beloved rest is our pride. We run, therefore, to greet you. Come, anointed bride. We light candles with a bracha, dressed in our best. All work has ceased, for we are commanded to rest. It's time to delight in all kinds of dishes, fatted geese, tender quail and succulent fishes. On Erev Shabbat, delicious foods are prepared, fragrant wines and delicacies. No effort is spared. Jacob's unbounded heritage will be our reward. Rich and poor alike shall greet Shabbat with accord. Walk at a slow pace. Make Shabbat joy your goal. Sleep, too, is praiseworthy, for it restores the soul. My soul longs for you, Shabbat, to rest in love. Our children, free of cares, may taste of the world above. All who rejoice on this day much happiness shall see. Our redemption will flourish. Grief and sorrow will flee. Ma yedidut menuchatecha Shabbat amalka V'chein narutz likratech boichala nesucha Levush bigdei chamudot ladlik ner biveracha Vateichel lekol ha'avodot Lo ta'asu melacham Lehitaneg b'tanugim Barburim uslavedagim Lehitaneg b'tanugim Barburim uslavedagim Ilu chachtei benachat oneg ekra l'Shabbat ve'ashena meshubachat kedat nefesh meshiva V'chein nafshi lecha rega ve'lanuach b'chiba Kashosh ani mesuga bo yanuchu ve'nuvad Lehitaneg b'tanugim barburim uslavedagim Lehitaneg b'tanugim barburim uslavedagim Ve'eino lamahaba yom Shabbat menucha Kol hamitanegim ba yizku lerov simcham Mecheven le'mashiach yutzalu lirevacha Peduteinu tatzmiach V'nas yagon v'anacham Lehitaneg b'tanugim Barburim uslavedagim Lehitaneg b'tanugim Barburim uslavedagim Joseph dreamed, and his brothers could not stand him because of how they understood the dreams that he was dreaming and sharing with them. He told them that the sun and the moon and the stars would bow to him. But really, it wasn't an image that was supposed to be about lording over his brothers. They find out in this week's Torah reading that that dream was about them coming and thanking him for saving their lives. It wasn't that Joseph was supposed to be their king. It was their bowing the way we bow and say thank you. Thank you for saving us, for giving us food to eat. The sun and the moon and the stars are not supposed to bow to anyone except to God. And we sing that they bow and celebrate God's sovereignty. We sing that song in our prayers. page 108. A gentle Lord of all that is, blessed and loved by each soul alive, great and good, you fill all space. The light there is in knowing you. The stars and the planets you made to give light. You formed them all conscious, all worthy and wise. Knowledge and power you gave them to shine like powerful assistants. They serve you in space. Much light and energy they radiate forth. No place is untouched by their gentle rays. So joyful their path is, so happy their course, en route to fulfill their Creator's command. Praising your glory, they honor your name, singing your majesty's anthem of joy. Seraphim, angels, and all heavenly hosts praise you in concert with all the divine realms on high. All elements mingle their harmonious tune. Nature and humanity, the rhythm provide. El Adon al kol hamasim, baruch hu mevorach befi kol neshama, godlo vetuvo malei olam, da'atu tevuna sobevim oto, ha-mitga'eh al chayot HaKodesh, v'nedar bechavod al hamerkava, al hamerkava. Zechut umishor lifnei chisom, chesed verachamim lifnei chevodo, tovim meyorot shebara Eloheinu, Yitzaram bedad, Levina uvehaskel, Koachu gevura, Natan bahem, Liot moshlim bekerev tevel, Meleim ziv, umefikim enoga, na'esivam bechol ha'olam, bechol ha'olam, smeichim betzeitam, v'sasim bevoam, osim beyema, ritzon konam, yer v'chavod, notnim lishmon, tzala verina lezecher malchuto, karal hashemesh vayizrachor, ravehi yitkin et surat alvanam, shevach notnim lo kol
צבא מרום, תפארת וגדולה שרפים ואופנים, לחיות הקודש, שבח נותנים לו, כל צבא מרום. תפארת וגדולה, שרפים ויופנים, לחיות הקודש.
Page 112.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Page 114, we celebrate that God is the great Redeemer. God saves us from our troubles. And we say that God is Motzi Asirim Ufodei Anavim. That God is the one who frees the captives, frees those who are incarcerated, and redeems the humble. Incarceration is a curse, a plague that we suffer from in this world, especially in our society. We have powerful people who pardon criminals who have done terrible things, while our jails are stuffed, overflowing with people who have done practically nothing wrong. But we want to punish, we want to jail, we want to incarcerate. The Joseph story is a story of Motzi Asirim. God, through Joseph's agency and through Pharaoh, releases the captives, saves those who are in trouble, opens the storehouses to feed the hungry. This is part of the story that we need to listen to and learn from. Take a moment now to be silent, each of us in our own hearts, each of us with our own soul. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו
amen. Uyase shalom, uyase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Uyase shalom, uyase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
This week our Torah reading is Vayigash. Vayigash Yehuda. Judah steps forward with courage, with gvura, and pleads before this unknown ruler, pleads for compassion. And Joseph breaks down and reveals that he is indeed their brother. And the family is called upon to reunite, and Joseph says, come to Egypt, bring father, because here I can take care of you. The famine is heavy. It will keep on going for years. Come down to me, to Egypt. And Israel, Jacob, finally agrees that he must leave home. Chapter 46 in Genesis, found on page 279 in the Eitz Chaim Chumash, begins, so Israel set out with all that was his, and he came to Beersheba, where he offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And God called to Israel in a vision by night and said, Jacob, Jacob. And Jacob answered, here I am. And God said, I am God. I am the one who is the almighty source of strength for your father. Fear not to go down to Egypt, for I will make you there into a great nation. I myself will go down with you to Egypt, and I myself will also bring you back. I will bring you up. Joseph's hand shall close your eyes. Vayisa Yisrael v'chol asher lo, vayavo be'er Shabam, vayizbach zbachim le'Elohei aviv Yitzchak, vayomer Elohim liYisrael b'mar'ot halayla, vayomer Yaakov vayomer hineni, vayomer Anochi ha'el Elohei avicha, al tira mereda Mitzrayma, ki legoy gadol asimcha sham, Anochi eirei dimecha Mitzrayma, ve'anochi alcha gam alo, ve'Yosef yashit yado al einecha. So this is the fear, the deep, deep fear of leaving home. Jacob and his family were refugees fleeing from an unsustainable situation, fleeing for their lives. They were fortunate enough to have someone to take care of them. Joseph, empowered by Pharaoh, sheltered them and sustained them in their strange alien country. But millions and hundreds of millions and millions more throughout history and right now during this very moment are afraid and have to leave home. And what kind of response will people give them? This poem is written by Warsan Shire, an African poet. She wrote this poem 5 years ago. Unfortunately, it is still pertinent. No one leaves home. Unless home is the mouth of a shark, You only run for the border when you see the whole city running as well. Your neighbors running faster than you. Breath bloody in their throats. The boy you went to school with who kissed you dizzy behind the old tin factory is holding a gun bigger than his body. You only leave home when home won't let you stay. No one leaves home unless home chases you. Fire under feet, hot blood in your belly. It's not something you ever thought of doing until the blade burnt threats into your neck. And even then, you carried the anthem under your breath, only tearing up your passport in an airport toilet, sobbing as each mouthful of paper made it clear you wouldn't be going back. You have to understand that no one puts their children in a boat unless the water is safer than the land. No one burns their palms under trains, beneath carriages. No one spends days and nights in the stomach of a truck, feeding on newspaper, unless the miles traveled means something more than journey. No one crawls under fences. No one wants to be beaten, pitied. No one chooses refugee camps or strip searches where your body is left aching, or prison, because prison is safer than a city of fire. And one prison guard in the night is better than a truckload of men who look like your father. No one could take it. No one could stomach it. No one's skin would be tough enough. Go home, blacks. The refugees, dirty immigrants, asylum seekers, sucking our country dry, niggers with their hands out, they smell strange, savage, messed up our country, and now they want to mess ours up. How do the words, the dirty looks roll off your backs? Maybe because the blow is softer than a limb torn off, or the words are more tender than 14 men between your legs, or the insults are easier to swallow than rubble, than bone, than your child body in pieces. I want to go home, but home is the mouth of a shark. Home is the barrel of the gun, and no one would leave home unless home chased you to the shore, unless home told you to quicken your legs, leave your clothes behind, crawl through the desert, wade through the oceans, drown, save, be hungry, beg, forget pride. Your survival is more important. No one leaves home until home is a sweaty voice in your ear saying, leave, run away from me now. I don't know what I've become, but I know that anywhere is safer than here. How blessed were our family in those days to have a generous ruler and a generous administration that welcomed them and took care of them in their hour of desperate, starving pain. We offer our prayers for those who are sick. First paragraph will be chanted, and then we'll pause to add specific names, and then continue. Mi shebeirach avoteinu mekor habracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imoteinu
Mekor Abracha Lavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shleima, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Pray that the Rabbanu Shalom grant the refuah shleima, a complete and speedy recovery to all those who are suffering. God bless their caregivers with good health and with hearts of strength and courage and love and wisdom to be able to do everything possible and everything necessary on their behalf. Page 251. Psalm 122. Shir HaMa'alot LeDavid. A song of ascent by David. I rejoiced when they said to me, let us go to the house of the Eternal. We stood within your gates, Jerusalem, Jerusalem rebuilt, a city uniting all. There the tribes ascended, the tribes of the Eternal, as Israel was commanded, to praise God's name. There the seats of judgment stood, thrones of the house of David. Pray for the peace in Jerusalem, for contentment for all who love you. May there be peace in your ramparts, tranquility in your sanctuaries. For the sake of my brothers and sisters, I will speak words of peace to you. For the sake of your holy dwelling, God, I will pursue good for the sake of all. We wish that we would have a minyan to be all together in this home, in this house of God, so we could recite these words of the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shomrei Rabbah, v'yalmad yivrach chilutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayichon v'yomeichon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'izman kariv v'yimnu amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach li'olam u'l'olmei al-maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shmei l'kudisha b'richu. Le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran bi'alma v'yimnu amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimnu amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimnu amen. So until that time, we pray, God, accept these prayers and hopes and intentions, and for the sake of your great name, send healing and salvation to the world. Page 187. Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'ed nasa b'chefzo kol Ay melech shemo nivra ve'acharei yimotaru ve'adon yimotora ve'u'aya ve'u'otem ve'u'yiyeh ve'tivana ve'u'echa ve'yimshem ve'amshilelo ve'amkiva Beyom ekra beyado avkid ruchi beyet ishan beya'ira
Teim ruchi geviati Adonai li Lo